Basic education. China basic education involves the preschool 9-year compulsory education from the elementary to the junior high school standard senior high school education, special education for disabled children, and the education for illiterate peoples. China has over 200 million elementary and high school students who together with the preschool children account for one-sixth of the total population. For this reason, the China's central government has prioritized basic education as a key field of the infrastructure, construction, and educational development in recent years. Senior high school education has developed steadily. In 2004, enrollment was 8.215 million, 2.3 times that of 1988. Gross national enrollment in the senior high school has reached 43.8%, still lower than that of the other developed countries. The government has created a special fund to improve the conditions in China elementary and high school for new construction expansion and the rebuilding of run structure per capita. Educational expenditure for the elementary and the high school students has grown greatly. Teaching and research equipment, books and documents being updated and renewed every year. Government aims for the development of China's basic education system is to approach or attain the level of moderately developed countries by 2010. Graduates of China primary and secondary schools tested highly in both basic skills and critical thinking skills. However, due to the poor health, rural students often drop out of a lack in achievements. Key schools shut down during the Cultural Revolution reappeared in the late 1970s and in early 1980s became an integral part of the effort to revive the lapsed education system. Because of the educational resources were selected key institutions, usually those with the record of the past educational accomplishment, were given priority in the assignment of the teacher, equipment, and the funds. They also were allowed to recruit the best students for the special training to the compete for admission to top schools at the next level. Key schools constitution only a small percentage of all regular senior middle schools and enroll and the best students into the best secondary schools largely on the basis of the entrance scores. In 1980s, the greatest resources were allocated to the key schools that would produce the greatest number of the college entrants. In early 1970s, efforts had begun to develop the key school from preparatory school into a vehicle for diffusing improved curricular material and teaching practices in local schools. Moreover, the appreciativeness of a key school's role in the 9-year basic education plan was questioned by some officials because key schools favored urban areas and the children of the more influent, better educated parents. Zhejiang, Xinjiang, Sichuan, Xiamen, and other cities, and the education department in the Shanghai in Tianjin were moving to establish a student recommendation system and the eliminate key schools. In 1986, the Shanghai Educational Bureau abolished the key junior middle school system to ensure an overall level of education. Despite the effort to abolish the key school system, the practice still exists today under other names, and education inequality is still being widely criticized by some government officials and scholars. Training schools, also called the training centers, are a type of the private companies that help the students in China, typically 3 to 12 years old, improve their performance in the academy. A subject such as English, math, or the Chinese. Training schools can range anywhere from a one-room operation with only one teacher to very large corporation with hundreds of thousands of students. Primary schools. The institution of primary education in country as vast as China has been an impressive accomplishment in contrast to the 20% enrollment rate before the 1929 and 1985. About 96% of primary school age children were enrolled in the approximately 832,300 primary schools. This enrollment figure compare favorable with the recorded figures of the late 1960s and early 1970s when the enrollment standards were more egalitarian. In the 1985, the World Bank estimated that the enrollment in primary schools would decrease from 136 million in 1983 to 95 million in the late 90s, and the decreased enrollment would reduce the number of teachers needed. Qualified teachers, however, would continue to be a demand Under the law of 9-year compulsory education, primary schools were to be tuition free and the reasonable located for the convenience of the children attending them. Students would attend primary schools in their neighborhoods or villages. Parents paid a small fee per term for the books and other expenses such as the transportation, food, and heating. Previously, fees were not considered a deterrent to attendance. Under the education reform, students from the poor families received stipend, and state enterprises, institutions, and other sectors of society were encouraged to establish their own schools. A major concern was that scarce resources by the conserved without the causing enrollment to fall, without the weakening of the better schools. In particular, local governments were told not to pursue middle school education blindly while primary school education was still developing, or to wrest money and teaching staff and materials from the primary schools. Children usually enter primary school at 7 years of the age for 60 days a week, which after regulates the changes in the 1995 and 1997 were changed to 5.5 and 5 days respectively. The 2 semester schools year consists of 9.5 months and begin September 1 and March 1, with a summer vacation in the July and August and a winter vacation in January and February. Urban primary schools typically divided this school week into 24 to 27 classes of the 45 minutes each, but in the rural areas the norm was half-day schooling, more flexible schedules, and internet teachers. Most primary schools had a 5-year courses except in such cities as Beijing and Shanghai, and later other major cities which are reintroduced 6-year primary schools and accepted children at a 6.5 years rather than the 7. The primary school curriculum consists of the Chinese, mathematics, physical education, music, drawing, and elementary instruction in nature, history, and geography, combined with the practical work experience around the school compound, general knowledge of the politics and moral training with the stress the love of the motherland, love of the party, and the love of these people was another part of the curriculum. Of foreign language after the English is introduced in about the 3rd grade. Chinese and mathematics accounted for about 60% of the scheduling class time. Natural science and social science accounted for about 8%. Portuguese, how commonly spoken language, was the taught in language regular schools and the Fainan Romanization in the lower grades of the kindergarten, and the Ministry of the Education required that all primary schools offer course on mortality and the ethics beginning in the 4th grade. Students usually had to perform productive labor 2 weeks per semester to relate the classwork with the production experience in the workshop or on a farms and relate it to the academic study. Most schools and had after our activities at least 1 day per week to involve students in the recreation and community services. By 1980s, the percentage of the students enrollment in the primary schools were high, but the school reported high dropout rates and the regional enrollment gaps. Most enrolls were concentrated in the cities. Only 1 in the 4 countries had universal primary education. On average, 10% of the students drop out between each grade. During the 1979 and 83 periods, the government acknowledged the 963 rules. That is that 9 of the 10 children began primary schools, 6 completed it, and the 3 graduated with the good performance. This means that the only about 60% of the primary students actually completed their 5-year program of study and graduated, and only about 30% were regarded as having the primary level competence. Statistics in the mid-1980s showed that the more rural girls than boys drop out of the schools. Within the framework of the law on 9-year compulsory education and the general trend toward the vocational and technical skills, attempts were made to accommodate and correct the gap between the urban and rural education. Urban and key schools almost invariably operated on a 6-day full-time schedule to prepare students for further education and high-level jobs. Rural schools generally operate on a flexible schedule cater to the needs of the agriculture season and sought to prepare students for adult life and manual labor in lower skill jobs. They also offer a more limited curriculum, often only Chinese, mathematics, and moral to promote the attendance and allow the class schedule and academic years to be completed. Agriculture season were taken into the account. School holidays were moved, school days shortened, and full time, half time, and spare time classes offered in this slack agriculture season. Sometimes the in, inter, internet teachers were hired for mountain village and they served on a village in the morning, another village in the afternoon. Rural parents were generally well aware that their children had limited opportunity to further their education. Some parents saw little use in their children attended even primary schools, especially after the establishment of the agriculture responsibility system. Under that the system, parents preferred that their children work to increase the family income and withdraw them from the schooling for both long and short period of times.